Hey Team Christian Danielle fans, welcome back to my channel. It's your girl Christian Danielle, back at you with another video. And this time in the video, I'm doing a movie comparison to John Ritter's Stay Tuned from 1992 and the Fairly Odd Parents movie special Channel Chasers, which was released in 2004. Now, before we get into the video, the premises of the movie is like the movies were about people experiencing life inside television. The difference is that Stay Tuned's version of experiencing life in television is like when four couples are sucked into a hellish version of cable television. And it is in the show throughout the whole adventure inside television. And the object was to be killed before they reached the end of the channels. Now, Stay Tuned starts off with the Sidon Bombs, Murray and Sarah. They got sucked into the television, but they were naive. They were really naive about being in television. Well, really, it's called the evil cable TV, where everyone's souls rest after the participants are killed in evil versions of various TV shows from the 1940s dating all the way to 1992. And it also has a hellish version of a music video with Salt and Pepper in the end, which I'll talk about the cameo of Salt and Pepper later on. But the difference in Stay Tuned and Channel Chasers is the Nables are accidentally sucked into the television set in hopes of being killed before they reach the end of the channels. But they were eventually saved by their children back in the real world. The evil person that got them in there, Spike, he starts off talking about getting a new TV to both the Sidon Bonds and the Nables, but the Nables didn't know was that they was getting sucked into or trapped into an evil TV set. And then they adventure on into those certain movies and TV shows, which starts out with them exploring the hellish versions of game shows that you see on TV, such as Wheel of Fortune, Jeopardy, Family Feud. And the TV show was called You Can't Win. But if you couldn't win, you was going to get killed in that show. But if you survived, the Nables had eventually moved on into a wrestling match, a hellish wrestling match. And in that part, that's when Helen defeated the hellish versions of the wrestlers. And then they venture on into a hellish version of a television show called Northern Exposure, but it's called Northern Overexposure, where they were being attacked by wolves. But they escaped the wolves, and the next station they get turned into, the Nables get turned into cartoons, and so they're stuck in a hellish version of Looney Tunes or Tom and Jerry. So it's pretty much a parody of those cartoons put together. Because in the end of the cartoon segment, you will notice John Ritter saying, Porky Pig's line, that's all, folks. But he would go like this, that's all, folks. And then runs into the mouse hole to get to the next television show, which that television show is now where Roy Nabel, the main character, is. He's on a hellish version of Wayne's World called Dwayne's Underworld. Meanwhile, Helen is in a hellish version of an old movie from some old movie from the 1940s or whatever, based on movies like Gone with the Wind and movies featuring Marilyn Monroe or Betty White back in the day before she got older and stuff. And meanwhile, back in the real world, the Nabel's youngest child explores the other hellish versions of TV shows, such as a really hellish version of Jane Fonda's Workouts combined with the exorcism called The Exorcises. And there's a show called My Three Sons, but in the movie they called it My Three Sons of Bitches. Meanwhile, as Roy and Helen try to make their way out of the TV, they eventually end up in another hellish version of an old movie dating all the way into the Victorian era, the French Revolution, where John Ritter has fake boobs and has to wear a disguise. But in the middle of it, Roy ends up being ejected from the hellish television. Meanwhile, Helen is stuck because apparently the contract for this television cable was supposed to be for one person, but Mr. Spike accidentally took two of them because it was supposed to be for Roy to die in. And because Helen went in without permission, according to Spike, Helen was on her own and couldn't get out of the television unless Roy came back and saved her, which he did, which followed into a movie chase scene when Roy and Spike end up going in other various television shows such as Star Trek. And then the next channel after Star Trek becomes a commercial about safety driving. And then the next channel is an NHL hockey game, but it's a hellish version of the NHL. And then going into the next channel, you got a parody of Driving Miss Daisy, but it's called Driving Over Miss Daisy. And then after Driving Over Miss Daisy comes Three's Company, which ironically John Ritter starred in. And then when John Ritter had to change the channel after Screaming, he ends up in another hellish version of a television show that dates way back into the historian Victorian historics, or however you pronounce it. And it ends with Roy and Spike fencing to fight to the end, but Roy gets access to Spike's remote, which turns it, and when they struggle for the remote, that's when you end up in the hellish version of Salt and Pepper's music video. And they're trying to fight each other throughout that video, but Eventually, Roy and Helen were saved by Salt. Thank goodness. Because if you notice, at the end of the song, Pepper was trying to give the remote to Spike, but Salt said, give the remote to Roy Nabel. And so, and in the end, Roy finally destroys Mr. Spike and saves his wife, and they end up back in the real world, reunited with their children. But at the end, just as Roy and Helen were about to make up, because they were about to divorce, they were about to make up and kiss until the neighbor's dog comes out ready to charge at them. And so Roy says whoever left the gate open is grounded for a week if they got attacked. But the dog ends up getting sucked into the television set. And then he was like, check that, whoever left the gate open gets double their allowance. And the movie just pretty much ends with Spike eliminated by the dog. And the Nabels go back to their unusual normal lives. And that is the premise of Stay Tuned. But in Fairly Odd Parents Child Chasers, it starts out 20 years into the future, which would be 2024 into the future, because the movie was released in 2004. And the premise of the movie was you have adult versions of the main character, the child characters, seen into the future, and an adult version of Vicky taking over the world and ruling the world. And so adult Timmy was the adult version of Timmy was the chosen one to get to the younger version of Timmy before it was too late. And which Timmy and his fairies traveled through various TV shows alongside the older version of Timmy, who the younger version of Timmy thought was an evil adult, but was real shocked to see an older version of himself. And Vicky ends up with the magic remote that Timmy wishes for when he wishes himself into television, because his parents did not believe him about Vicky. And Vicky ends up traveling into the TV shows as well, and wants to make her way to the History Channel to take over the world. And if she succeeded, then 20 years into the future, as you would see in the beginning, will be the future that exists. But thanks to younger version of Timmy experiencing aging and stuff, and then one day wishing that the remotes didn't exist at the end, as if nothing had ever happened and that no one remembers it. And then then at the end of the movie, come 20 years later into the future, instead of Dimsdale being apocalyptic, Dimsdale ends up being kind of similar to what we're living in right now, with Timmy having two children, one that kind of looks like him, and the other that looks like both Trixie and Tootie, because the daughter wears glasses like Tootie. And so the Challenge Chasers movie ends with a broader version of Denzel, and it kind of represents post COVID-19 to me. So pretty much what I would say is Channel Chasers and Stay Tuned is pretty much movies about experiencing being a part of television from a TV viewer's perspective, mean virtually experiencing the television shows. And so this was a really long video. I haven't done a long video in a long time since I've posted a video about my cousin's pregnancy and how I thought I would be like an aunt figure to my new cousin. But if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. Let me know if I messed up or pause in between sentences, because once I post this up and I get bad credits, I'll probably end up ceasing to work in my regular job and probably end up never getting the hell out of my parents' house, because that's exactly what the hell I want. That's why I wanted to do YouTube videos for money, but because I pause in between sentences, I don't know if I can do it. That's my video, y'all. I'm out. Let me know what you think in the comments. If you're new to my channel, as always, please subscribe. And please share with your family and friends, especially if you are movie fans, or if you just want to know what's really going on in the world. You can follow my channel. See you next time.